The new Red Dead Online Naturalist update added 2 new weapons as of now to the game, and we even may get some new drip feed items for melee weapons and melee weapon variants, but we have yet to get our first weekly Tuesday update, and so in today's video, we're going to be talking about Red Dead Online's new most powerful weapon, and that is the Elephant Rifle. This thing is just plain and simply awesome. It isn't necessarily the most practical, of course, but that's never how you should look at a niche weapon like this, and we will be discussing the advantages of using a rifle such as this, what you can do to ensure you're using it for the right situations, and also running some tests with it. So if you enjoy this video at any point, or if you just find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it, and if you want to stay up to date with everything Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online, consider hitting that subscribe button. Let's jump right in. So starting off, let's talk about the pros and the advantages of using this weapon. For one, like I said, it is extremely powerful. This is one of the most powerful weapons in the game for a few reasons here. One, because the Elephant Rifle realistically is essentially like a 10 gauge slug shotgun. You know, it has a lot longer barrel than a standard double barrel or the rare double barrel already in the game, and if you have not picked up this weapon yet, I still highly recommend you do. So it is one of the most powerful guns in the game for that reason. If you try and hunt animals, it's not necessarily going to be the most useful, but we're going to get into that a little bit later on in this video. For hunting down legendary bounties, this weapon is pretty fun to use, since those enemies on tier 5 and those legendary bounties specifically deal a lot of damage to you and are able to absorb a lot of damage themselves because they have a lot of health. They're a little bit bullet spongy if you ever notice when you use rifles or any like repeater, really any weapon. As long as you're not getting a headshot, you're not going to get a one-shot kill typically on enemies in a tier 5 legendary bounty hunt. But this weapon kind of proves that wrong. You just need to aim into the upper torso and you will be good to go. But of course, you don't want to necessarily only use this weapon to take down NPC enemies. After all, this is supposed to be a weapon you're supposed to be able to hunt with, and we're going to talk about that. Another advantage is, of course, it's fun to use. The fun factor of this weapon, I feel like, is the most important. It's an extremely fun weapon to use. You will have a blast, or when you're able to take off limbs and sever limbs, gib enemies because of the huge calibers of this weapon, you're going to be having a blast using it. The customization options as well in terms of a pro are amazing. You're able to put on this long barrel, and you're able to adorn it with new engravings and all these new wraps styled in the game and the new metal color inlays. Everything on this weapon just looks absolutely amazing. You look like a total boss when you ride around with this gun on your horse, and if you compare it to the double barrel size on your back and you have the new Nitro Express Elephant Rifle on your shoulder or vice versa, you will see how much larger this weapon is compared to the double barrel. You thought the double barrel was powerful? Well, check this weapon out. And of course, one of the last advantages here and one of the last pros is it is a very unique weapon to add to your collection. This is like the strangest weapon we've seen added to the game in terms of like an actual rifle. We've had some really cool melee weapons, and there's another new melee weapon coming into the game that looks really awesome, but this one in specific is super awesome, but let alone it may not be the most useful. So with that being said, let's talk about the cons and the disadvantages. Unfortunately, this weapon is not as great for hunting large game as you may think. In real life, you're supposed to use the elephant rifle or an elephant gun to take down animals the size of elephants or other large game like that. You know, maybe you won't necessarily want to use it on a deer, but you may want to use it on a bear, an elephant, a rhino, whatever you're hunting, a hippo. I don't know if people hunt hippos necessarily, but in this game, it is not necessarily the most useful because you are going to be ruining those pelts. If you have a 3-star animal and you shoot it with this thing, boom, immediately 1 star, you're going to destroy the pelt essentially. Now, during a legendary animal hunt, this is when it comes into use, and I think that is why Rockstar put it into the game. Yes, because you already have a ton of weapons at your disposal to get 3-star pelts in the free roam just hunting normal animals, but you can certainly use this weapon to take down the legendary animals. But again, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it does the damage it does on those legendary animals. I tried to take down the legendary Moonstone Wolf with a double barrel shotgun, and it took me 4 shots from close range. The elephant rifle, it was pretty much the same case. Another con is the slow fire rate. You will notice that this gun has a very slow fire rate. One, you probably could fire it faster if the game allowed you to, but the problem is the recoil is so strong it knocks your character back, and that kind of segues into another disadvantage. You can't crouch and shoot this weapon. You are going to get knocked on your butt because of it. It's really fun to do it anyway, just to see what happens for your character, and it's fun to kind of like shoot yourself off a cliff essentially because of it, but In practicality, using it against enemies, you can't crouch around in PvP anymore and use this gun because you're going to fall over and then get headshotted yourself. And even in like other enemies in the free roam, you don't want to battle NPCs because they'll hit you while you're down and you'll probably lose your bar, and then they'll one-shot you when you're taken down to your core. But again, for legendary animals, just make sure you're not crouching. You'll be good to go. Again, a slower than average reload compared to shotguns, but of course it's going to be quicker than repeaters and rifles, but it is slower than reloading the double barrel shotgun, for example. Not insane amounts slower, but it is slower. And it can also be quite an inaccurate gun at times. Essentially, this seems like the bloom and the accuracy of this gun is like a hybrid between a shotgun and a rifle. When what I mean by that is, if you ever notice with the pump action or the double barrel, the bloom in this game is set really wide. And if you stand still and allow yourself to focus in on whatever target you're looking at, the bloom circle will get tighter and tighter, and if you crouch, it will get smaller, and of course painted black, it pretty much eliminates it. With this weapon, you start off with shotgun kind of bloom, a big wide circle, and you need to give the game at least a second for you to focus in with your aim, and then you have rifle accuracy. It just turns into a dot, but if you get shot, that bloom circle goes back into a wide shotgun circle, so you need to be very careful when you take your shots. And speaking of taking your shots, this weapon only holds 2 bullets every single time. It is a double-barreled rifle here, so you only have 2 shots. You need to make sure they count. Now that we know the pros and cons of this weapon, let's see how this weapon performs when getting into a gunfight encounters with enemies here in Red Dead Online. It is a dark and stormy day, and this is the perfect weather for absolutely shooting people in half with the new elephant rifle here in Red Dead Online. So let's go wreck some faces here. We're going to be testing it out on enemies. Not a whole lot of testing to be done at the range and stuff. Like, it's got longer range than a shotgun, shorter range than a rifle. If you're going to be using this for any situation where you're actually trying to kill enemies, it's probably recommended you have some good revolvers or pistols on your side, and also either a rifle for the longer range or even like a sniper rifle, like a rolling block or a Carcano. This guy, boom! Like, you just shoot him mid-body and they just go down. Like, I just shot that guy in the nuts. I took off his left leg. You can see the stopping power this elephant rifle has. It is so much fun to use, and look at the kickback, right? And the best part of it all, check it out when you're crouched. You just get knocked on your butt. So watch out. If you ever fall over, like mid gunfight with this, especially if you're fighting players, you may find yourself dying to it because you're going to be knocked on the ground for a couple of seconds there before you get back up. Let's test out the hip fire so you can see kind of the fire rate trying to hit fire. Boom. Boom. I was tapping the trigger as fast as I could right there. And there's a nice half-second delay in between shooting it. So again, like, you can pull this off in PvP. I do want to try out some PvP with this. But of course, if you're looking to absolutely destroy enemies, sure, maybe you'll be able to do some damage with the 20 shots you have, but then you're going to run out of ammo, and that's going to be the end of that weapon. So just be careful. But again, for a new weapon, for a niche weapon, like, obviously, are you supposed to take this weapon seriously while you're using this on, like, enemies and stuff? No, you're meant to hunt, like, legendary animals with this thing, but it's just fun to use against people. Like, just let's blow off someone's head with it. I love the executions when you use this thing, too. It's like, it just feels good to use this gun, no matter what way you pull the trigger with it. Like, oh, well, that... Okay, I meant to go for an execution, and I ended up hip firing instead. Maybe we can go for this guy. He looks like he's easy enough to kill. I would love if Rockstar came up with a new game animation, like if you shot someone in like the stomach or the chest with this, you just cut them in half. I know there's not necessarily that type of gibbing and that type of dismemberment in the story mode or anything like that, and so it would need to be like brand new, like animated and designed into the game. But I think that would be the coolest thing ever, because this is the type of weapon that would do that amount of damage. Because you already shoot people and it takes off their limbs and arms and legs and obviously their head, but I would love it if you could just cut people in half too, because that's kind of how this weapon feels like when you shoot it. You just know you're shooting the most powerful weapon in this game is really what it comes down to. We have a few more enemies, and then we'll blow up the moonshine still. We have 3 shots left. I want to use the Evans repeater just to finish this off real quick, and I want to see if we can blow up the moonshine still, because like normally with a shotgun, I think it's 3 shots, but let's see if the elephant rifle is a different story. Let's see if it's like 1 or even maybe 2 shots. Let's test it out. 1, 2, it may be 3. Oh, it's more actually. That probably would have been an extra shot. So 4 shots with an elephant rifle would have blown up the moonshine still. That's where we're going to wrap up the video here today. We just discussed the new elephant rifle in its entirety, the pros, cons, advantages, disadvantages of using this weapon, and why it's still worth buying, and even tested it out live for you guys here in game. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video, and hopefully I did earn your like on it. And of course, if you are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Red Dead Online, Red Dead Redemption 2, and even Rockstar games as a whole. We'll be sure to keep you guys up to date with updates, news, information, tips, tricks, and even leaks, and we'll keep you guys updated here on the channel daily, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected with me outside of YouTube. I practically live on all 3 of those websites, and you can feel free to strike up a conversation and even ask me a question. Whatever it may be though, you can follow me at Hazardous HDTV, and all of my social media links, including my Discord, can be found in the description down below. With that said, thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you guys all have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys in the next Red Dead Online video. Adios, amigos.